Well, hello everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening for our Financing a College Education webinar. My name is Ashley Hanson and I am the Associate Vice President for Admissions. And I am here with my colleague, Jeff Teague, our Director of Financial Aid. So tonight we are going to talk with you about some general information about filing your FAFSA form. Many of you may have done that already. Some of you are also in the process. So Jeff is going to cover the basics of financial aid, including the FAFSA form. And then I will come in and talk about financing a Carthage education. This is being recorded this evening, so if you would like to share it with family members, it will be available on our website by early next week. We would love to see where everyone is viewing from this evening. So in the chat feature, if you could please drop your first and last name, the student's first and last name, and your hometown, your city and state, that would be great. But please give your attention to Jeff Teague, our Director of Financial Aid.
Good evening, everybody. We're so excited that you can join Ashley and I this evening. Like she said, my name is Jeff Teague, and I am the Director of Financial Aid for Carthage College. I've been with Carthage for about 10 years professionally, and I also completed my undergrad, my bachelor's degree, and my master's degree from Carthage as well. So Ashley and I are definitely excited that you all could join us tonight. It's kind of some topics just to dive into tonight. We're going to discuss the basics of, what is financial aid, some terms that will go along with that during your college search process, the cost of attendance, the estimated family contribution, financial need. We'll go through categories and types of specific sources of financial aid, as well as how does this process begin? How do we get to the point where we've received that general financial aid package? To kind of kick it off, what is financial aid? So financial aid consists of funds provided to students and families to help pay for their post-secondary education. To kind of kick off, the terms that you're going to hear, regardless of what institutions you may be looking at, the financial aid process is going to be the same, regardless of institution. So if you look at kind of those terms, the first one you're going to hear an awful lot about is the expected family contribution, or the EFC. The EFC is a measurement of the student and family's ability to pay post-secondary educational expenses. That's made up of a student contribution as well as a parent contribution if the parent is a dependent student. Cost of attendance. So the cost of attendance is going to be made up by the institution's tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, transportation, and other miscellaneous personal expenses the student may need while away at school. So that EFC, that expected family contribution number, that number is going to be the exact same regardless of what institution you may be looking at. The cost of attendance, however, is going to be specifically set by specific institutions. So no cost of attendance will be the same, but that EFC number will be. So if you kind of look at what is financial need at an institution is going to take that cost of attendance, subtract your expected family contribution, and that will be the financial need for the student. So to give you an example, if an institution sets their cost of attendance at $48,000, a student's family contribution number is $23,000, they're now going to have financial need of $25,000 when an institution is going to create that financial aid package. The categories of financial aid are going to be broken up into two main categories. You'll have your need-based aid and your non-need-based aid. So your need-based aid will be things like, grants, scholarships, a federal Pell Grant if the student were to qualify. Or your non-need-based aid would be more things like student loans, for example, Stafford loans to the federal government, which we'll touch on. So types of financial aid, we're going to break that up into two categories as well. We have a self-help aid, which will consist of loans and work study or student employment, and then gift aid, which will be scholarships and grants. So keep in mind the gift aid, those scholarships and grants is all going to be free funding, free money that the student would not have to repay after school has ended. So financing options, if you're going to break down two of the main financing options you're going to come across when working, with multiple schools will be the Parent Plus loan and the alternative student loan. So a Parent Plus loan is a loan in one parent's name. It's actually a federally backed loan. So the federal government is going to be the lender on this loan. They're going to offer 3 repayment options with up to 10 years to repay that loan. The nice thing about being backed by the federal government is it is going to be a fixed interest rate. So, currently we're seeing 5.4%. Each year they're going to set that interest rate, but it's fixed and it's always going to be remarkably low based on the government. Those repayment options, repayments wouldn't have to start being made until 6 months after a student graduates. But while the student's in school, if you did want to make payments towards the interest or the principal now and then when you're able to, you can definitely do that. That'll help you out in the long run, but payments do not have to begin until 6 months after graduation. And then we have an alternative student loan or a private student loan. This is going to be a loan that's in the student's name. So a co-signer is going to be needed. It does not have to be a parent. It could be, an aunt, uncle, maybe an older sibling. So that is pretty wide open depending on the family and the family situation. Here you have the ability to shop around for an interest rate. So any sort of, third party outside bank or credit union, something local from your hometown, a bank that your family already uses and is familiar with, you really have the ability to shop around for the interest rate there. And each bank is going to specialize that based on the specific student and the student's application. And here repayment on a student loan also would not begin until 6 months after graduation. The nice thing about these loans, I know sometimes people kind of look at the loan option and kind of back away, but keeping in mind that, loans are not a bad thing when it comes to financing, a college education. It really kind of helps the student, put some skin in the game, kind of build credit and kind of build themselves as an adult as you're going on. And as long as those are managed properly, it's really not an issue. And, at Carthage and in most places you'll find they will have a dedicated, team that's willing to sit down and discuss those options and make sure that things are manageable before, you kind of go that route. And then to plan ahead. So the federal government also will offer the student a Stafford loan each year by filing the FAFSA form. So for freshman year, you can guarantee yourself $5,500. Sophomore year would be $6,500. In junior and senior year, you can guarantee $7,500 coming from the federal government. Once again, since these are federally backed, the interest rate on these is pretty great. Currently, we're seeing 2.75%, which is wonderful. Traditionally, these loans are going to be kind of broken down into two parts. For example, freshman year, of that $5,500, $3,500 of that is going to be a subsidized loan. So with that, the government is actually taking care of the interest while the student is in school. And then the additional $2,000 of that is going to be an unsubsidized loan. And the interest does start accruing as soon as that loan is, dispersed to the institution. But for the majority of that loan, and for most students, the government is going to take care of that interest. Like I said, these same kind of payment terms, 6 months after graduation is when payments would begin. But you do have the option if the student's able to, put away on some of that principal or interest while they're in school, they're definitely, able to do that with no sort of penalty. So they don't have to follow up proper repayment when in school. They can kind of come and go as they please if they're able to. Employment opportunities, also a huge way to kind of look at, helping to finance that education. So at Carthage, and in general, you find two specific employment opportunities. You'll find a campus employment and a federal work-study program. So campus employment, this is a non-need-based program at Carthage that's going to begin, on October 1st. And students are paid every 2 weeks, which is wonderful. Whereas the federal work-study, this is need-based. So this is determined off of that EFC number from the FAFSA form. For our students, they were able to begin working the first week of school, and they were also paid every 2 weeks. So this, at Carthage specifically, this is a real life, job opportunity. Students are able to work directly in almost all of our offices on campus, hire students. That's how a lot of our offices function, is with the help of students. So to provide them kind of some real life, real work experience. At that time as well, you're able to to put that money towards your student account to help pay for school, or pocket, a portion for living expenses as well. So that would come to the student, regardless of option, direct deposit, every 2 weeks to help them when they're in school. Outside scholarships, third-party scholarships are going to be huge as well. So at Carthage, there are a number of scholarships that are available to currently enrolled students, as well as students, looking to start school next fall. We specifically notify students through the Bridge, which is kind of our student news portal, as well as directly out of our Office of Financial Aid. A big thing to keep in mind, I know, next August, September may seem like quite a ways away, but it's not too soon to start looking for those third-party scholarships now. Simple things like FastWeb or even Google, Googling, outside scholarships, maybe if your student has a specific major in mind, a specific career field in mind, kind of Googling those scholarship searches now. It's never too soon to start. Private sources is also going to be a big factor in the financial aid process. This would be things like foundations, businesses, churches, maybe civic and charitable organizations. So a lot of those are going to want to check directly, with your town, for example, your churches, things like that, to see what options they may have to help, fund your education. There oftentimes will be deadlines in application processes. So you definitely want to kind of start researching those early to get your foot in the door to see what may be available to help you out. And employers too. Many employers have scholarships available to the children of their employees. A lot of educational benefits do exist. So if the student has a job, it may be worth reaching out, or mom and dad, maybe worth reaching out as well to employer to see if they have any sort of scholarship or funding programs to help, the student while they're in school. Even if it's, a small amount, $500 a year, that's going to be huge in order to, help with books or help kind of just take away that overall tuition payment. So this is definitely an untouched resource that, we would encourage you to kind of ask the questions. You'll never find out what may be out there if you're not willing to kind of just ask those questions and see what could be available. So kind of how this whole process starts is going to be through the FAFSA form. This is the free application for federal student aid. So this is a form through the federal government. The Department of Education is going to collect demographic and financial information from the student and the student's family. This information is going to be used to calculate that EFC number. Then, colleges will receive your EFC, and that's how they're going to award you a specific financial aid package. It's currently available in English and Spanish. You can fill that out at any time during the academic year, but it did open for next fall on October 1st. So right now you're able to go in and start filing for financial aid for next school year. Many schools do have a priority deadline. For us at Carthage, we do ask that you have that completed and sent over to us by January 1st. So the earlier is always better in terms of maximizing your financial aid opportunities. Sometimes at the federal and state level, they do run on limited funds. So the earlier, the better in terms of just maximizing all options that are out there. Just to give you a kind of a glimpse of what you're headed for. So FAFSA on the web, the Department of Education has kind of revamped things in the past few years to make it a lot easier and more accessible to students and families. So to give you a kind of a main idea, when you head there, you're going to want to log in as a new user. If you have not done this before. When you get in to log in, it's going to ask you, I am the student or I am the parent. So you just want to click on, I am the student. Mom and dad, your information will come in handy as well, but you want to start on that student side. And then the big thing be kind of in the beginning of this process is, the student and at least one parent is going to be need what's called an FSA ID. So this is, used for FAFSA completion, and it allows access to kind of all of the U.S. Department of Education websites that the student may need during their time away at school. So, only one owner should create the FSA ID. So, one parent, one student. We would recommend writing down that username and password. Since this is through the federal government, sometimes if you forget that information, they have made it pretty difficult to reset and gain access back to it. But this would be one of your first steps. And when you go onto that FAFSA on the web page, the very first option before you begin the process, it will allow you to create your FSA ID. They will give you an option later on in the form as well if you have not. couple of cool tricks when you're inside filing the FAFSA form. You will come across an option known as the IRS data retrieval tool. This is going to allow, this allows for certain tax return information to be transferred directly from the IRS database into your FAFSA form. It's voluntary for you to choose whether you'd like to use it or not, but the IRS is going to authenticate your taxpayer identity. You're going to go in, answer a few simple security questions, and they're actually going to populate all of your tax information directly into your FAFSA form, so that there's no kind of chance for errors or any misinformation. They will automatically do that for you if you're okay with that. You, of course, can enter in all of your information manually off of your tax forms, not a problem at all. But if you did want to save yourself some time, totally safe and secure way to do it. They've made it really nice and simple to kind of move the process along and really help students and their families out. Just some general student information of what you'll need to complete the FAFSA form. So the student's going to need their social security number, their citizenship status, marital status, if there's any drug conviction or possession of stale. They're going to need selective service registration for males, and then the highest education level that's been completed by mom or dad as well. And then student's dependency status. So the FAFSA is going to ask a series of 9 questions to determine the dependency for Title IV funding, so for federal funding. If all responses are no, the student's a dependent student, and we would need to continue on with parental information. If the student can answer yes to even one question, then in the government's eyes, the student would be independent and they would not need to provide parental information. So to give you an example of the 9 questions, if the student's married, if the student has children to support, if they're in active military duty, if they're above the age of 24, these are all things that in the government's eyes would make the student an independent student, and then therefore they would not need, mom or dad to help fill out the form. So same thing, and information about the parents of the dependent student. So mom or dad, you're going to need tax, income and other financial information. If you're a dislocated worker, that status. If you have any sort of federal benefits in the past 2 years, SNAP benefits, for example, and then any other assets or untaxed income is all going to come into play when completing the parental section of the FAFSA form. Same thing, if the student has a spouse, if the student's married, the same information is going to be needed for the spouse. The tax and income information, dislocated worker status, any sort of assets or untaxed income. And then when you've got it all kind of completed and filled out, you're going to sign off on that to have that form submitted. So the student and one parent for dependent students are going to be required to sign. You can sign, kind of the quickest, easiest way will be electronically using that FSA ID. There is a paper signature page as well. If you're having trouble with that FSA ID, or if that's not working for you, you can print off a signature page, sign on your own and have that sent in to the specific school or to the web address provided as well, either option. Some kind of frequent errors that students and families come across when they're filing, they're just good to know, so you can make sure you're kind of double or triple checking this information as you're inputting it. Social security numbers, the marital status of mom and dad, the income earned by a parent or a step parent, any sort of untaxed income, U.S. taxes paid, household size. These are all things that could slow the process down if the information is not accurate. So just good things to double check when you're completing the form. So how's all this going to work? So you've sat down as as a family, you've completed the FAFSA form, you've hit submit. So once you hit submit, it's going to go to a central processing unit with the Department of Education. And then in about 3 to 5 days, they're going to send a copy to the college and university the student has listed, as well as to the student directly. So on the FAFSA form, you are able to list up to 10 institutions. Obviously that's a lot of institutions, so we encourage you to kind of lower that a little bit, but you can submit that to 10 institutions. If for some reason you were looking at more than 10 schools, you can submit that, go back in, remove a school, add another one, and then resubmit, and then it'll keep sending information to those schools as well. Making corrections if it's necessary. Once you've completed that FAFSA form, you've submitted it, and you want to go in and double check your information, realize you need to kind of collect something, not a problem, you can do that. Right on that main login page, they'll have a login option to make a collection. You can go back in, review your information, collect anything you think needs to be redone. The big thing here would be to make sure you go all the way to that last page and hit submit as well, so that the colleges can get that new information that you've just changed. And then special circumstances as well. So especially at Carthage, we know that conditions exist that can't be documented, by the FAFSA form. So especially kind of with the world, how it's been in the past, year and a half, 2 years, things may be different at home, in person than what they look like on paper. So with that, we're going to work with you on kind of looking at what your true picture is. So, with that, you'd work with kind of Carthage and send in, written explanation and documentation as to what's going on, what the real picture looks like versus what, you had to report on paper. And with that, we're going to work with you directly to make sure, we've maximized all the aid and all the resources for the student. These can be things, kind of those unexpecteds that happen at home. So maybe, there's been a death of a parent or a spouse, or, there's been a loss of employment at the home. Maybe there were multiple children and you're paying secondary school tuition. The student, for some reason, can't obtain information from a mom or dad to complete the financial aid process. There's a number of things that could come up that happens in real life. And we're with you. We totally understand that. We don't want that to be a roadblock. We want to make sure that, you reach out to us directly, so we can kind of walk you through those steps and make sure we're doing everything we can to make it possible for you. So at this point, I'm going to kind of turn things over to Ashley, and she can kind of take over with the Carthage education here.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. And we will have time here at the end for any questions that you have, whether they're just general financial aid questions for Jeff, or if you have specific Carthage questions. It is very important to file that FAFSA form, no matter if your family makes $50,000 a year or $200,000. You will receive scholarship and grant money, specifically from Carthage, but from private schools in general. And that is money that you do not pay back, and it is renewable for all 4 years. And so also, if you attend a high school in the state of Illinois, you are required by the state, in order to receive your high school diploma, to file the FAFSA form. That is not a Carthage rule. That is not a college rule. That is a state of Illinois rule. So just a heads up on that. The FAFSA form is safe and secure. It is a government website, as Jeff mentioned. So your data will be safe, and your FSA ID is an important part of keeping that data safe. And so a couple of questions have come in about, what happens after the FAFSA gets to Carthage. So typically it takes 3 to 5 days to reach us, as Jeff mentioned. We are in the process right now of putting together financial aid packages, with them going out here between the 1st and 2nd week of November. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. I am going to share my screen here. There we are. So I'm going to talk about specifically financing a Carthage education. This is an area that I am very passionate about, scholarships and financial aid. I have spent the last 17 years in higher education, 15 of these years at Carthage. And as for parents and family members going through the college search process, one of the biggest stressors is financial aid. And so if you're a parent out there who is feeling that stress, feel free to, say me in the chat feature, and know that we are going to help you get through this as well. A Carthage education and private school education is affordable. And actually you will find, going through the process, that we are very comparable as you're looking and comparing us with state or public institutions as well. So there's many different sources of scholarships and financial aid. So the first step, when your student is accepted to Carthage, they will be awarded a merit-based scholarship. So this scholarship is based off of their high school GPA. So we use their high school transcripts that they submitted with their application for admissions. All of their merit scholarship information will be included on their financial aid award, which, as I mentioned, we begin to send out between the first and second weeks of November. This merit-based scholarship will range up to $13,000 per year, and it is renewable for all 4 years. You do have to maintain a minimum GPA, which we will tell you with your award criteria. If your GPA goes up in your senior year of high school, we will take your highest GPA through the first semester of your senior year. So for most of you, your first semester or after the first and second quarter will end here in January. You're welcome to send us those updated transcripts. So that is the first step in the process. For any of you who have visited Carthage, you will receive a $500 visit grant, which is renewable for all 4 years. That will also be included on your financial aid award. If you file the FAFSA form by January 1st each and every year, you will receive a $500 early FAFSA award, and that will also be included on your financial aid package. Now, the second part of the process is what we call these competitive scholarships. So these scholarship applications, which are listed here in front of you, all of the applications are available on the Carthage website, carthage.edu/scholarships. And I will drop that in the chat feature in just a few minutes as well. But to apply for scholarships, you do not have to be committed to Carthage. To apply for any financial aid, you do not have to be committed to Carthage. You will always have until May 1st to make any final decision. And so the Presidential Scholarship, which is listed there on the top, this scholarship program is open to students of all majors. We offer 35 total scholarships, 9 of them in the amount of full tuition, 26 scholarships in the amount of $25,000 each. So you go to the website, you can fill out the application right on the website itself. From there, we will invite students onto campus. So if you are invited to the on-campus competition, that will take place between January and February. When you are here on campus, you will have a 20-minute conversation with a member of the Carthage community and 50 minutes, 50, to complete an essay. By simply applying and attending the scholarship competition, you are guaranteed a $1,500 grant, which is renewable for all 4 years. We then have major specific math and science, business, and modern languages. So if you are looking at these majors, you have the opportunity to apply for these scholarships. Underneath the modern language, we offer French, German, Chinese, Japanese, and Spanish. Some of these have the option of minoring. So if you're not looking at making a full major with the languages, you have the option of the minor. You can apply for more than one scholarship. So you can apply for math and science and the Presidential Scholarship. There's flexibility there. The key is that the applications are due by December 3rd. Under our fine arts, we offer scholarships that range up to $13,000 per year. They are by audition, and you have the option for both in-person or virtual auditions. Within the fine arts, we have music scholarships that are open to majors and non-majors. So if you're looking at majoring in nursing and still want to audition for a music scholarship, that is an option. You have until March 1st to complete your audition for any of our fine arts. And then finally, our diversity, equity, inclusion, and leadership. So we offer 15 scholarships in the amount of $2,500. I can't stress enough how quickly December 3rd will be here. So again, you do not have to be committed to Carthage to apply for these competitive scholarships. By applying, you are going to gain additional information that you need to help make that final college decision. And then the next part, the last part of the building blocks of your financial aid award is the FAFSA, as Jeff just spoke about. And so more than 90% of our students receive scholarship and grant money on top of that merit-based scholarship that I already mentioned. And again, this is money that you do not pay back, and it is renewable for all 4 years. Our school code there is listed on the right hand of your screen. All schools have this 6-digit code, and that is how we electronically receive your information. And again, start looking for those outside scholarships. We also have wonderful opportunities for scholarships for our current students. 3 times a week, our current students are sent emails about scholarship opportunities that are just for them when you are here. And this is the conversation that I love to have with the families that I am working with. You know, as we mentioned, we know that financing a college education is a big stressor for families. It is a big investment. It's like buying a house, buying a car. And so there's many different things that go into making that final decision. All the schools have different sticker prices. They're all offering different financial aid. So how do you go through everything? First and foremost, when you receive your financial aid package here in mid-November, your admissions director is going to call you and walk through step by step what everything means. We're going to go through the financing options, the payment plans. And parents, we really love to have you as part of this conversation as well, as we know that you are a key factor in making that final decision. But as families, as you're sitting at home, at night, over the weekend, having conversations about college, I encourage you to break it down. So like the screen in front of you, this isn't to say that everyone has to pay an equal third, but as you look at college costs, who can contribute what? As parents and family members, is there a set amount that you can contribute each year? For some parents, it may be the full amount. Some may say we can do, $5,000 a year, or we can, and some may say we can do a couple $100 a month. As students, is there a set amount that you can contribute each year? Have you been working over the summers, or will you have graduation money, or have you simply been saving that you can contribute $3,000 a year? And then the last part being, this is how we can make up the difference. Whether we take advantage of paying one semester at a time. There is monthly payment plans that are interest free. And then there's also the options of loans, as Jeff mentioned. The reality is that families are just not writing a check for the remaining balance. We probably wish that we could all just write a check. That would make the college search process a little easier. But the majority of families will choose a combination of plans to help reach that bottom line cost. And this is just a nice way to break that down as well. And that's where your admissions director, we can talk through your individual numbers on what makes sense to you. This here is just an example, as I mentioned, of breaking that down, taking that remaining out-of-pocket costs and saying, hey, we're going to pay $300 a month. My student is going to work on campus and contribute $2,000 a year. We're going to take out a small parent loan, a small student loan. All of these are options. And so you pick the option that works best for your family. As I mentioned earlier, May 1st is the final college decision day. And then between May, June, and July, that is when we will get everything in place in terms of the financing component. This is such a fun screen because this is Carthage in a nutshell in one screenshot. And so, as you're going through this college search process and you're learning information from Carthage, from the other schools that you are interested in, what does it all mean? When you look at the value of Carthage, we offer over 50 different majors and programs. We are a school that has an overall population of 2,600 students. So you will know a lot of people at Carthage, but yet you are not going to know everyone. As you're looking at all of these different sizes of schools, ask yourself the question, where do I learn best? Do I see myself sitting in a classroom of 200, 300 students? Or am I looking for more of that hands-on experience? We are ranked number 5 in the country of all colleges and universities for short-term study abroad. So if you have that desire to travel in college, we are getting back to travel here in January. We have some short-term 3-week trips that are available. You can do research, internships. Our goal is that every student leaves Carthage with at least one internship. And we are in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is sandwiched between Milwaukee and Chicago, which means we are one of the fastest growing corridors in the country, with major headquarters within a 10 to 15 minute radius of campus. We offer over 28 varsity sports, including esports is our newest. Our new facility is amazing. We are the Firebirds. But at the end of the day, we guarantee that you will graduate within 4 years. That is so important. Right now, state or public institutions have a 33% graduation rate in 4 years. So what does that mean if you have to spend 5 years in college? It's a full extra year of tuition, but more importantly, it's a loss of income that first year, which on average is between $40,000 to $50,000. So when you add that up together, that's a significant investment lost. 98% of our students are employed within 6 months after graduation. That is last year's graduating class, which graduated at the height of the pandemic. And we believe in career preparation starting day one with the Aspire program. Each and every one of you is going to have a career specialist, along with your faculty advisor who is mentoring you throughout these 4 years. And so that's what Carthage, when you look at that return on investment, what makes it so important. I did want to share both of our email addresses for both Jeff and myself. We are more than happy to get you connected with your admissions director, or if you would like to have a one-on-one conversation. If you would like a copy of tonight's presentation, I am more than happy to drop it to you in an email. Simply send me an email and I can hit reply. And so that way you have a copy of the slide deck. This ends our formal presentation, but I would like you, if you have questions, we would like to make sure you leave with all of your questions answered.